The Valley of Fear, 1915, Episode 8, Justice and Revenge. The Boundary Line. Welcome back, fellow detectives. Throughout this series, we've journeyed through one of Holmes's most complex cases, from a coded warning to a locked room murder, from the terror of Vermissa Valley to Moriarty's shadow. Today, we confront the profound questions this case raises about justice, revenge, and the consequences of our choices. Have you ever had to decide whether an action was morally right, even if legally wrong? Prepare yourself for an exploration of the darkest moral territory in Holmes's career. Picture yourself back at 201B Baker Street, several weeks after John Douglas's death. Holmes and Watson find themselves returning to the troubling questions it raised. Holmes, I've been thinking about Douglas, Watson begins. Was he a hero or a murderer? The answer seems to change depending on which moment we're examining. Holmes stares into the fire. That, Watson, is the question that haunts me. McMurdo infiltrated the Scourers and brought murderers to justice, clearly heroic, but he participated in their crimes to maintain his cover. Douglas killed Baldwin in self-defense, justifiable, but then staged an elaborate fraud. Where does the line fall? Here's the fundamental dilemma. When fighting evil, how much evil can you commit before you become what you're fighting? McMurdo's noble purpose, was it corrupted by his methods, or did those methods remain justified by the outcome? Watson offers, surely context matters. McMurdo had no choice. Refusing to participate would have exposed him. He did terrible things, yes, but in service of a greater good. Holmes nods slowly. The utilitarian argument. But where do we stop? If one murder prevents 10, what about 10 murders to prevent 100? Holmes receives a letter from Mrs. Ivy Douglas. Mr. Holmes, I've been reading John's journal. I discovered I was married to a stranger, a man who killed, who lived a lie so complete that even I never suspected. How do I reconcile the gentle husband I knew with Jack McMurdo, who participated in atrocities? They visit her at Birlstone Manor one final time. I thought I knew my husband, she says. The journal revealed someone else entirely. How can both be true? Holmes's voice is compassionate. Mrs. Douglas, your husband was both men. Vermissa Valley transformed him. The question isn't whether he was good or evil, but whether someone who does evil for good reasons can ever find peace. She shows them a passage. I destroyed evil men, but I cannot wash their blood from my hands. The law says I'm a hero. My conscience says I'm a killer who escaped punishment, which is true. Holmes recognizes the weight of moral burden. McMurdo saved lives by taking lives. The mathematical calculus says he made the right choice, but human morality isn't mathematics. Think about this weight. McMurdo prevented future murders by participating in present murders. The dead remain dead, regardless of justification, and the killer carries those ghosts forever. Watson asks, what about Douglas at Birlstone? Self-defense, certainly, but then the deception? Holmes's response reveals the complexity. He could have reported Baldwin's death and claimed self-defense. Instead, he chose fraud over law. His lack of faith in legal protection became self-fulfilling prophecy. By choosing deception, he made legal resolution impossible. Mrs. Douglas reveals Douglas's final letter. In it, he asks forgiveness for his deceptions and hopes that someday people will understand he did what seemed necessary even knowing it was wrong. He writes, I destroyed evil men, but I fear I destroyed myself in the process. Holmes considers that question, was it worth it, haunts everyone who compromises principles for a greater good. Douglas saved dozens by destroying the Scourers. Those people don't know they owe their safety to his sacrifice. Was his suffering worth their anonymous safety? The medical mystery is solved, but Holmes ponders, why do we fear disease more than injustice? Colonel Emsworth imprisoned his son rather than risk social stigma, that fear of contamination, of being associated with the unclean, has driven countless cruelties throughout history. So tell me, detective, where do you draw the line between justice and revenge? When does self-defense become murder? Can participating in evil ever be justified by preventing greater evil? These questions have no easy answers. The case ends without legal resolution, but with cosmic justice. The assassins who murdered Douglas perished at sea. Holmes stares at the news. Divine justice accomplished what human law could not. The scourers who terrorized communities met their own destruction. Sometimes fate delivers verdicts courts cannot reach. Watson reflects. The Valley of Fear challenged every assumption I hold. Mortimer deserved death, received death, but did he receive adequate punishment? Sterndale's attempted revenge felt morally right, despite being illegal. Holmes stopped it, but seemed uncertain he'd made the correct choice. Holmes grows introspective. I stopped Sterndale because law must prevail over personal vengeance, but I'm not certain I was right. Some crimes are so horrible that legal punishment seems inadequate. Perhaps there are situations where private justice serves morality better. I don't know. The Tregennis brothers never recover, trapped forever in terror. Their estate is sold, inheritance exhausted. Mortimer's greed destroyed not just lives, but the family legacy. Sterndale returns to Africa, seeking death to reunite with Brenda. Holmes receives word years later that he died of fever. Whether natural or deliberately sought, they never know. Holmes returns to London changed. I've always pursued justice with absolute conviction, believing law adequate, but this case revealed limits. Situations where legal punishment seems inadequate to the crime. I never fully resolved this conflict. It's like fighting a hydra, Watson observes. Cut off one head. Two more grow. Holmes nods wearily. Revolutionary violence, extremism, problems beyond any detective's power. We save individuals, arrest criminals, but ideologies persist. Until underlying problems are addressed, groups like the Scourers continue emerging. The final scene shows Holmes and Watson at the docks, watching Douglas's ship disappear. Do you think they'll be safe? Watson asks. Holmes's response is measured. Safer than anywhere else, but they'll never truly be free. They'll spend their lives looking over shoulders, trusting no one completely. The Scourers may never find them, but fear will haunt them forever. So what lessons does the Valley of Fear teach? That fear and ignorance create suffering beyond diseases themselves. That loyalty survives shocking revelations. That proper expertise should be consulted before fear-based decisions, and that even genius has limitations. Holmes remained committed to using his gifts for justice and compassion despite uncertainty. The Valley of Fear remains unbroken in Naples, continuing to terrorize, but two people it marked for death now live in freedom. And that small victory must be enough. Sometimes saving two lives is the limit of what even Sherlock Holmes can achieve. Holmes reflects, this case taught me about the limits of logic. I can deduce facts, identify culprits, but I cannot answer whether Douglas was justified. That requires wisdom I don't possess. Wisdom about when rules can be broken, when deception serves truth. Perhaps that's why we have juries rather than just detectives. Thank you for joining me through this dark journey. The Valley of Fear reminds us that some secrets are so dangerous that people will kill to protect them. Douglas ran for 20 years, but the valley followed him. His story reminds us that some debts can never be fully paid and some enemies never forget. Note, this case represents one of Holmes's most morally complex investigations where solving the mystery couldn't prevent tragedy, and where the greatest criminal mind demonstrated superiority by turning the detective into an unwitting accomplice. It's a sobering reminder that even genius has limits when facing equally brilliant adversaries with no moral constraints.